Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours. At the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:11 p.m. It's kind of warmer today. Lola, I don't know what exactly the degrees is.
It is 43 degrees by my car's thermometer.
Let me tell you what, I like the way your car reads temperature.
I do too.
I'm glad the weather's finally warming up. The snow's melting, just like it should after Christmas.
It's supposed to stay in the 40s during the day.
Yeah?
For the rest of this week. After that, who knows? We have 3 separate or 4 storm fronts coming through, one after another, and they're supposed to all be kind of rain. But, if the temperature drops, who knows what could come out of these things.
Hey, you know what? Rain's a lot better than snow and ice any day.
Yesterday was just one of those lazy, rainy, drowsy kind of days.
It was, and you want to know what I did yesterday? You're going to love this.
What?
I did absolutely nothing. It was a lazy, rainy. Nick wants me to turn his mic on. I like this job.
Can I talk? Nobody saw him yesterday. When did you hit the deer, though?
Saturday.
What?
I hit a deer. I ran into a deer.
Not.
Yeah,
you
totally
did. Not
okay, the deer hit him.
The deer hit you.
Yeah, he jumped right up out of the creek and decided he was going to try to eat my hood.
I don't know why they are attracted to vehicles, but they just run into the damn things every time you turn around.
It's because my car is sexy.
That's it. It was it a female deer?
Yes.
See?
I'm like a magnet.
See? Did you keep it? Did it die?
Yeah, it died.
This
I watched it die. I know this is probably a little graphic for some of our listeners, but it's like head wrapped around my hood. And I watched its eye turn from black to white. It was crazy.
Oh, God.
I mean, not that I was like, oh my God, did I keep it? Yeah, it's a pet.
And Jordan kept honking at it the entire time.
My dog was playing with it this morning. Had it in his mouth. Like,
wow.
I'm joking.
Really?
I'm sorry.
All
right, we are live right now from the Market House Bar and Grill down in Elm Grove, down on Kruger Street. Come on out. We got some specials Monday. Today's Monday. Got a bucket of beer or 4 beers and a pound of wings for $10. Also,
wow.
I know, right?
And I'm not there, and you have food.
I know. You missed out. You should snag Dougie while you can and come on out here.
He's gone, unfortunately.
Oh, that rat.
I learned my lesson.
And we're out here next week too. We're just doing it again.
Okay, well then I will make sure I got somebody in here.
And the Whisper Special moved from Tuesdays to Mondays since we moved from Tuesday to Monday.
Very
and
good.
that's $1 domestic beer and $2 mixed. And that's running from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock tonight.
All right.
So come on out here. It's on Kruger Street off exit 5. Fun times. And they have Coke too. If for those of you that don't drink the alcohol. Yes.
Coca-Cola.
Yes, quit drooling and wiping your nose out there.
What do you mean?
What? But I mean for the wings.
What is that under your nose? A graying mustache?
It's powder from a donut, I swear.
Oh, I see.
All right, some of the food they have here, they got cheese fries, onion rings, cheese sticks, jalapeno poppers, and of course wings. So come on out here. Nick.
What was that wings we had the last time? It was blue.
Blue cheese?
Buffalo blue.
Buffalo blue.
Oh.
Those were awesome.
I think he made us buffalo blue and plum sweet. Both of them were good.
Both the plum sweet was a good one too. I'm trying to think if there was a fruit one somewhere.
Well, plum is kind of a fruit.
Never mind.
Right.
God, my Lord.
Lola, you see what I have to deal with here when you're not here? I have to deal with it myself.
You have to deal with it because of my family. You'll always have to deal with me.
Not necessarily always right.
Well, that's true.
Because I'd kill him if I could.
Nice, you guys.
Did I say that on the radio?
He says he would kill me, but I do all kinds of stuff for him.
All right,
you
you
know.
guys, serious question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Any feedback from last week's show?
We had some I've had some weird emails, but it was the feedback I want to ask you about. Did you first off did you get your symbol? Did you send away for it yet?
No.
Are you going to?
Yes.
I was going to say you have to be curious.
Well, and here's my question about this. Remember, he said all he needed was to know my full name and the origins of my parents, my ethnicity. I
Yes.
guess is. And then he says, and a picture.
Okay,
if
well,
you
all he
have
needs
one.
is your name and the origin. He just wants the picture.
He wants the
That's
picture
what
because
I was
because he wants a
thinking.
little piece of the Lola.
Well, we'll see about that. But actually, I've been looking for a decent kind of picture to send.
No, I
in,
have a
so-
camera. I don't know what kind of pictures you'd like to send to Mr. Martin.
Because Jordan won't take any kind of a picture.
Because, I'm sure people out there in Radio Land would love to see some pictures of Lola.
You have a nice one on the website.
Well, that's the one I'm gonna.
I was going to say, that's a really nice picture of you on the website.
Much.
WKKX.com.
Thank you.
But I've played, as soon as I got home, I was giggling and laughing and telling Lisa, you have to listen to this part. And it was the
light years.
Yeah.
See
I
the
was like,
rings
this
of
is so
Saturn.
Billy D. Williams. Come and live with me amongst the clouds, kind of thing. With my Colt 45. But
He loved him some Lola.
He
Let me tell
loved
ya.
him, that's for sure.
no.
I have a guest in the studio with me right now.
Oh,
yeah?
hello, guest in
Yes.
the studio.
It's Gretchen.
Hi,
she,
oh.
She came with me today.
She's
So
not going to
if
answer
hear-
you. George.
Hi, Greston.
If you hear whooping periodically, don't be concerned.
Or if you
It's
hear
not-
Lola screaming and then
Bad dog,
all
bad!
the mics going silent means Gretchen peed in the floor.
And we'll be taking a break,
And we'll cut suddenly to a break.
Yeah.
hopefully.
We got some new stuff with the website. Nick built a community page.
Yes, I've pretty much made like a kind of like a Facebook for Whispers on
Wow.
the site. You can go on if you click on the community link at the top, or in the first post that's on the page right now, talking about our guest Michael Sala and Dwayne Claude. It'll say community there. Register. It should hopefully send you an email. If it doesn't, send me an email. I'll try to figure out what happened. But you can add your own blog. You can make groups. You can connect with different people from around the world that listen to the show. All kinds of stuff. So I've made a UFO group on there. It just says fans of UFOs because I wasn't very creative when I was doing the names, but I was just trying to make sure everything was working.
See, I can neither confirm nor deny this because I haven't seen it yet. So,
It's got blazing lasers and
it's top secret.
yeah. Jordan's not allowed.
Apparently, he's very choosy on who he lets in.
Yeah,
I
it's a members only group, and Jordan didn't make the cut. So Lola, you're in though.
Thank you.
So
I'm going to leave you guys to talk amongst yourselves. I am going to get our first guest on the phone.
Alrighty,
All right,
Lola.
cool.
Okay?
We also have a up at the top. It'll say bands, and that's where people out there, all of our listeners, can send in their own music. We can use it for the bumper music in and out of commercials. Unfortunately, we won't have that today. We'll just be playing our Whisper stuff because I didn't get a chance to run to the studio and give Lola any music. So
that's fine. Why are you
Oh,
looking
okay.
at me that way?
I don't know because
Jordan's like, why do you mean it's fine? But no,
it is not fine.
well, you know what's not fine? We haven't actually got anybody. Not too many people are sending that much stuff in for us to play, and that's upsetting.
Now, I do have a good bit of bands that have contacted me. Thank you.
Not through
Not
the website,
Not through the website.
but through locally. Well, we want some. We want some from the website.
But Nick,
So I can
Nick
know
is
it
dying
works.
for somebody to actually send something in through the website. So if you click on bands at the top and submit that way, Nick will get really giddy and probably pee in his pants.
A little bit.
Oh, that's too much. Okay. We
Did
have
Gretchen
Miss-
just-
He's like a cocker spaniel. Like he's
It's exciting.
I don't know where she's at. She might just get all goofy about it too. I don't know.
see.
She's chewing through the cables right now.
Probably as we
Everybody
speak.
loves local music. That's how it goes. Also,
so.
ads, since we are on location right now at the Market House Bar and Grill in Elm Grove. If you would like us to come to your place of business and do a radio cast,
Or if
guess.
you just want to sponsor the show and run some ads and stuff.
Yeah,
Either way.
Contact us, and we'll see what we can do. And the number for the business office at the station is 304-214-1610. Yeah.
Or you can contact us through the website as well. I have an ads thing up at the top. It's awesome.
Nick just wants somebody to talk to him.
Somebody talk to me through the website. I want to communicate.
We got our guest on, Lo?
Yes, we do. And just a point of interest, I tried to put the headset on Gretchen so she could hear it. She wasn't having any part of it. So here
That's because Nick was talking just now. Poor thing.
I'm so sorry, Gretchen.
I'm not here to referee. Now behave.
Before the night's out, Jordan's going down. All right.
Let's hope it's just from one punch with your right and not from half a bottle of tequila or something.
I'm just going to pick up a chair and throw it at him.
He's going to WrestleMania me.
All right, you guys.
Okay, well, so our guest is Michael Sala, pioneer in the development of exopolitics, the scholarly study of the main actors, institutions, and political processes associated with extraterrestrial life. His groundbreaking Exopolitics, Political Implications of the Extraterrestrial Presence presents the first scholarly framework for understanding the political implications of the extraterrestrial presence. Are you with us, Dr. Sala?
I sure am, Nick. Pleased to be here.
We're glad you're here too.
Now you're in Hawaii. It's 40 degrees here. What's the temperature there? I have to ask.
Oh, you don't want to know.
It's not snowing, I'm guessing.
It's definitely not snow and warm enough to go for a dip in the water.
Oh, jeez. I can't wait for that to come back here.
That's a good thing about seasons. They always come back.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the what you more or less is just nice there. It's just a degree of nice, I'm guessing.
Yeah, anytime you're at Hawaii, I think it's pretty good that it's better than here.
That's right. It makes it worthwhile doing this kind of work to be in a place like this.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, a lot of stuff's happened since we spoke to you last. I think we spoke to you in right after President Obama got elected. We were asking you kind of, what were you expecting? Has anything been surprising since the last time we spoke to you?
Well, yeah, I am frankly surprised as to how President Obama has really not stepped to the plate to do a lot of the things that he promised he would do. It seems that he's very good at just giving very positive rhetoric but not following through. So he really is a disappointment in that regard.
You've noticed that, have you?
Well, now he has been distracted by a couple of things.
Yes, that's true. The economy has, really taken on a whole new meaning. But yeah, I know what Michael's saying.
Yeah, we were hoping for a lot more. He came out basically guns blazing in terms of the first day in office, he issued an executive order and some memoranda concerning government transparency, Freedom of Information Act, but he really hasn't done much to follow through.
Well, sorry about that. Getting these systems worked out over here, but my big concern with it is he said he was going to come. He's going to be transparent. That hasn't happened. I think the other day I was looking at it. He hasn't had a press conference himself since I think June or July of last year, and still I don't think he has anything today. It just seems like he kind of started out gung ho, was going to be transparent, and I think that fell apart almost second day. It just doesn't seem like he's been.
Second day, you should have given him at least 2
a
days.
week. No, I mean because it is kind of I don't know what. Yeah, discouraging. I was gonna say I know it's very. I don't know. It's not looking good.
Well, he really hasn't about anything. All of his talks about the health plan, or health care reform. He was going to have open meetings, and you get his supporters, and they'll say, "Well, yes, there were cameras in this committee room and that." But does the real people, the people out in the heartland, do we get those stations? Do we have the capability of seeing that? And that's how it's been with everything. And I know what we've been referring to with the UFOs and just any of that information. I was hoping too that something would at least be opened, even if it wasn't necessarily a press conference by him. That somebody would take a stand and say, "Okay, we're going to be a lot freer with this information and these reports and all that kind of stuff."
Yeah.
Well, he did take a concrete step during his Hawaii vacation, funny enough. I mean, he issued an executive order basically making setting out new guidelines for declassifying government documents, and that kind of set down certain new parameters, such as 25-year rule, that agencies have to make a good case to not to declassify things, that documents can't be reclassified after being declassified, and then he's come up with a new one that after 75 years, unless there are extraordinary circumstances, any secrets have to be declassified. So that's a new one.
Well, wouldn't this be extraordinary kind of thing? That this would be very much something that we might want to keep a secret. Do you think?
Well, I mean, they've kept it a secret, for so long. I mean, at least since the 1940s. I mean, this area that I'm interested in, UFOs, extraterrestrial life. So it's been kept secret for over 60 years, close to 70 years now.
Now, do you see any steps at all within the next, let's say, 6 months to a year that something might come out? Any indications of this?
Well, I've been hearing a lot of things from insiders about that there's a lot of backdoor discussions about disclosure, about letting the public know about extraterrestrial life. And so there's been kind of a lot of leaking of discussions that have been occurring behind closed doors. But, as in many things that happen in government, often the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and so one bureaucratic department will say that, well, there's nothing being planned here, but just down the corridor, someone else is actually planning to make it a major initiative. And until it happens, these are all just contingencies.
Now,
how can we force their hand, so to speak?
That's a good question.
Is there a way that we could even do that?
Well, I think it's happening. I think as more people just look at all of the literature and look at all of the evidence and reach a conclusion that, well, yes, this is real and government is covering it up, eventually what happens is that people within government take note and say, well, we're losing the public on this, and they do care about public opinion. And if you have negative public opinion and it's strong, I mean, it kind of undermines government legitimacy. And I think that it's understood that this is very important for the long-term operations of any government, whether it's the Obama administration or the Bush administration beforehand. So eventually they do pay attention to public opinion. So the more people that just take note, read the literature, let friends know about it, the better. And eventually it'll force the government hand, but it's taking a long time.
Now, do you think, though, kind of going away from the U.S. for a little bit, looking at Britain, that they closed their UFO desk, they're not taking any more UFO hotline calls. Is that a setback for disclosure?
I think it has to be seen as a setback. I mean, certainly, they had that desk running off and on for over 50 years, the UFO desk, at least doing a kind of perfunctory investigation of UFOs, if the only thing just kind of collecting the reports, civilian reports. So to close that desk kind of like sends a message that, well, this phenomenon after 50 years of studies, it doesn't have serious enough implications for us to kind of continue to have this desk and open. But, that's kind of contradictory to some of the files that they released. Like they released files just over a year ago saying that an American Air Force pilot operating in British airspace was given orders to shoot at one of these UFOs. So, and that obviously shows that, well, these UFOs have national security implications. So on the one hand, they're saying that, well, these UFOs, they're not serious enough for us to study and continue this UFO test. But on the other hand, they released reports saying that pilots are being ordered to shoot at the UFOs. And why would you shoot something if it's not a national security threat?
So why do you think they closed the desk? I mean, what kind of signal? Because usually whenever you do something anything's, it's always politics. There's always a signal or something that's being sent. What signal were they sending to their citizens and to maybe even, to other governments?
I think it was a very clear signal. I think the signal was to just kind of tone things down, that things are getting too hot, too many people reporting sightings, posting website videos, photos. These UFOs are being seen all around the world. They're being seen in Britain. You've got the crop circle phenomenon. So I think there's just so much interest in this field that I think those within Britain just wanted to kind of tone things down a few degrees, not get people too excited about it, so they could manage it a bit better.
Now, Dr. Sala, I got a question. Now, back to the U.S. With Obama doing any kind of disclosure, at what point does it become Obama's lie? Like, I know we've talked to Stephen Bassett before. Like, there was a debt, like he had to give it within, this part of the beginning of the administration, or else it becomes his lie too. When do you think, like, if it's coming on his fourth year, as president, he says, "Oh yeah, there's aliens."
I'm sorry, but I'm not hearing you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. At what point does this become a President Obama's lie, the disclosure, without, like, it being the beginning of his administration? How he's like, "Oh yeah, all these previous, the Republicans lied." It becomes his lie too if he waits to the fourth year of presidency too, right?
Well, I think it'll take a few years for that point to be reached, because I think people understand that a president only has so much power, and certainly he can't disclose what he hasn't been briefed about. So I think until he has received a thorough briefing, and we don't know that that's happened yet. There are rumors that he has been briefed informally, but basically until he receives a full briefing, he can't tell the American public anything because he hasn't been told.
Yeah, so even if they have told him, he can, like, if it's his second term, he can say, "Oh, well, I just now got briefed on it," and it would be okay.
Well, that's right. Yeah, at any point he can just say, "I've just been briefed about this, and it's a national security issue." And I think once a decision is made to disclose, a president can make that disclosure, and it won't be negative for him. It'll be a big plus because he's just disclosed the biggest secret that's been kept from the American public for over 60 years.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll kind of hang on Obama, the fact that this secret becomes his secret, because he really hasn't been briefed, to my mind.
Okay. Do you think that Obama is going to be the disclosure president?
Do I think he's the disclosure president?
Yes.
I think he was chosen to play a very important role, and a role where he will help restore government legitimacy, because I think the big thing here is that once the public learns that they've been lied to for over 60 years concerning the existence of extraterrestrial life, government legitimacy is going to take a big hit, because people are being told that, well, here's a big lie, and it not only concerns politics, but it concerns it concerns science, it concerns technology, it concerns economics, the energy sector, all of these different fields that would be just kind of like impacted because of this disclosure. So you're going to need someone in government office who will be able to kind of restore government legitimacy, and I think Obama is that man, and that's probably why he was chosen for this role.
We're going to.
Before we take the break, we
Sure.
had a phone call, and a gentleman would like to know how you feel about the Vatican's statements kind of allowing for the fact that there are there could be, anyway, extraterrestrials.
That's a good question.
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. The Vatican is playing a very important role here. I mean, they are basically allowing their over 1 billion adherents to look at this extraterrestrial phenomenon as something real, that it's not something to be kind of ridiculed and ignored, that it's serious, it's worth investigating, it has important theological implications, and the Vatican is actually sponsoring astrobiology conferences at the Vatican itself, where
Wow.
scientists can contemplate the consequences of extraterrestrial life being discovered.
Well, here's a question that just came into my head. So if it's not really well formed, just excuse that. But I have heard from a lot of people that have done a lot of investigating into UFOs and extraterrestrials and all of that, that there is the possibility that they have been around since the beginning of time. Now, if that is to be, if there would be some way to in some way prove it, what does that do then to any religious belief when you fall back on, say, the Bible or the Quran or the Torah, because that would put a whole new light on the things that, like prophets, the things that prophets came up with, or the way that say even the pyramids were built. And I would think that the churches would be really afraid of that, especially in the light of their fear of just the questions that were asked after the first Dan Brown book came out.
Well, I think it'd be really a fascinating issue, because in these different historical or religious historical traditions, what you have is a lot of references to certain beings, angels, jinn in the Quranic tradition, and most people kind of view this as just kind of myths or statements of faith. So when the extraterrestrial presence is acknowledged and it's observed that, well, this actually goes back thousands of years, then it kind of casts a whole different light on many of the religious traditions. For example, Lot was escorted or was warned by these two angels about the destruction of Sodom in the Old Testament. Well, all of a sudden now you have a different perspective on that. Now it becomes, well, these two angels were really extraterrestrials warning someone about a nuclear war or a nuclear detonation that's going to take place in Sodom and Gomorrah. So I think it would bring in a completely different perspective on these texts, and it would actually validate that these were not myths recorded, that in fact that they were statements about some historical events that occurred thousands of years ago.
I think you're being awfully generous with the churches. I honestly think that they would fight this tooth and nail if there were some way that it was disproving, say the Bible or the Quran. People are so steadfast in their faith when you get on these, particularly the fringe areas. I don't know that it would be accepted so readily.
Well, the Vatican is. I mean, the Vatican is basically on the record now saying that there is nothing about belief in extraterrestrial life that contradicts Vatican teaching, and the Vatican has the most extensive set of Christian texts on the planet.
That's true. That's true. And I hope you're right, because there's nothing worse than holy wars, and we're living through that even now as we speak. So
that was a good question, Lo.
All right, you guys want to take a break? Doctor, can you hold on?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, everybody. You are listening to Whispers Radio live at the Market House Bar and Grill in Elm Grove. Come out and see us. Get something to eat. It's delicious. We'll be right back on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We are live at the Market House Bar and Grill down in Elm Grove. Come out and see us. Good times. It is 7:42 p.m. Our guest today, Dr. Michael Sala. We are talking about exopolitics. Sir, you still with us?
I am indeed.
Now, going right back into it, I talked to you about this yesterday when I called you for the show. You have a new article up. U.S. military is liaising with extraterrestrial life, according to independent sources. Now, what exactly is happening? Can you give us kind of a background on this?
Sure. Well, I mean, historically what has evolved is that more and more power and authority over um, extraterrestrial life and technology has shifted into the hands of corporations run by this control group that most referred to as MJ12. Historically, that was the name of it. We don't know the name of it now. And that the military has been more or less sidelined. And so what I have been hearing from my sources, three different sources that I referred to in that article, is that the military are trying to set up their own liaison programs separate from what has been happening under the control group MJ12 and the corporations, so that they can kind of get more information and to basically try and get control or regain authority over this whole ET issue.
So this is kind of a struggle between MJ12 and it seems to be the Navy itself, the U.S. Navy, that seems to be taking the lead in this, correct?
Exactly, yes. The Navy is the U.S. military service that has been the most progressive or most kind of authoritative in terms of getting information out there concerning ETs, sanctioning one of their officers to basically let the public know about some of the things that have been happening behind the scenes.
So now the article mentions, and I have to ask you this, three different types of aliens. You've got the reptilians and the Ebens, which are the Greys. And a lot of people hear about those. This other group, though, that I think this might have been the first time I've ever heard of them, a silicone-based life form dubbed the Conformers. Can you tell me any more about that? Because that sounds fascinating to me. Can you tell a little bit behind?
Yeah, is that like a computer?
Yeah, that was disclosed by a Navy officer, someone that I've interviewed and who's allowed himself to be interviewed by a number of others, and he says that he is involved in a program where he had face-to-face encounters with two different types of extraterrestrial groups, part of this project, and one was a reptilian species, and the other, he said, was this silicon-based life form that didn't have any kind of particular form or recognizable form that it could kind of like shift or that it kind of looked crystalline. And I mean, I haven't heard of that either. So, I've kind of been skeptical about that. But nevertheless, that's what he says he's been involved in, and he is a serving U.S. Navy officer. So, it's something that I put out there and for people to consider themselves. But I, like you, have not heard of them before.
Now, this ties in a little bit to something we talked about a couple weeks back with the gentleman about Serpo, Project Serpo. Can you give us kind of a background on that a little bit for those that aren't familiar with it?
Well, Project Serpo basically is information that was leaked by a number of people, allegedly within the Defense Intelligence Agency, who said that there was this liaison program that has been running for several decades now, where military servicemen would actually, as part of an exchange agreement with these Ebens, travel to their solar system in Zeta Reticulum and then come back. And that this top-secret program was something that was very highly classified, and that now information about it is being leaked, and that's been known as the Serpo reports.
Now, what kind of proof has been given about this? Is there documents? Is there? Have you spoke to anybody that actually went?
Well, in like so many sources in this field, a lot of them are anonymous, and it's really up to the primary investigator who has met those sources and talked to them, like how much trust you have in that investigator. So in the case of the Serpo releases, you have one or two investigators who have met with these anonymous sources and basically vouch for them as being bona fide. Now, interestingly enough, there are kind of snippets throughout the literature about some kind of exchange program involving extraterrestrials with the U.S. military. So there are different sources that talk about that. I mean, you have that reference to President Ronald Reagan, where he said to Spielberg made a comment about how much, after seeing the movie E.T., and he made the comment that, well, only half a dozen people know just how real this is. You have a number of kind of references like that, offhand references to a kind of an exchange agreement involving the U.S. military and extraterrestrials.
Now, do you think that they're sharing or trading like weaponry, anything like that kind of technology?
I think that they have been developing a lot of offensive military technologies for decades now, based on what they've discovered concerning extraterrestrial life. And that's probably one of the reasons why it's kept so secret, because it's understood by the military-industrial complex that the offensive or weapons applications of these technologies are just so extraordinary that you don't want this being released until you've had a kind of chance to work it out for yourself as to what the capabilities are, what the consequences of such technologies are. And of course, 60 years later, I mean, obviously, none of that has been released to the public. And, and I think one of the reasons is that because there are key people within the military-industrial complex that simply view releasing these technologies as being too dangerous.
Now, when exactly did this project end? What was it? 20 years ago? 10 years ago? Is it still going on?
The Project Serpo, I believe that dates from the 60s and 70s. I don't have the exact date that was referred to, but it's been running for a good 30 to 40 years now. And supposedly military personnel have been exchanged or have visited the planet Serpo in the Zeta Reticulum system where these E-bins come from.
Now, is this kind of like the movie Avatar, where we got...
It's interesting you raised that point, because there were some references or comments that there were some parallels between the planet Serpo and the Avatar movie. I don't know how strong those parallels are. I mean, the E-bins are very short, 3 foot, 4 foot tall, kind of typical greys, as they're known colloquially in the literature, whereas in the Avatar movie, we're talking about ETs that are kind of like 9 foot tall and very humanoid.
Now, is this still going on to where we're actually still exchanging to some degree, or has it been renewed to, or is that maybe why the Navy's interested in I guess taking over this information?
Well, I don't know if the exchange programs, as the Serpo material describes them, have continued, but I do know, based on this Navy source, this officer who says he met with reptilians and another group called the Conformers, that there is a kind of liaison program going on now. It's not something like an exchange where they go off planet and spend a lot of time with the host civilization, but there is some kind of face-to-face meeting happening now.
So more or less like it's gotten to the point where they're talking, perhaps wanting to set up some kind of a new contract or so forth.
Well, that apparently is what recently happened in November at the Johnston Atoll, which is just 1,000 miles or so away from the state of Hawaii, that the E-bins allegedly landed and had a meeting with a number of representatives from the U.S. government, including even a representative from the Obama administration, and they had discussions and talked about future meetings and liaisons. So, I mean, that, according to the Serpo material, is ongoing. And
it says here, it is even if this is the same one, a total 18 representatives, and this is from Victor Martinez, who maintains a large email list about Project Serpo, reports released from Anonymous. 18 representatives from U.S., United Nations, Russia, China, and Lolo find this interesting, the Vatican, and a certain other guest. So, I mean, the Vatican seems like it's starting to kind of head towards inevitable disclosure. Would you say that's correct?
I think so. I think that the statements that the Vatican has kind of authorized by their chief astronomer beginning last year and continuing on through this year and this big conference is showing that the Vatican is wanting to position itself on the right side of history here. I mean, maybe you've talked about the role of the Vatican in the past, but the Vatican really has the world's most extensive intelligence organization. Now, it might be odd to think of the Vatican that way, but it has. You think about, hundreds of thousands of priests where people go into a confessional box and tell the priest everything. Yeah, and
isn't it like right underneath the Vatican they have
itself? So the Vatican has a very extensive intelligence network.
Isn't it like right underneath the Vatican they have like tunnels just of documents and documents and documents that only like specific scholars are even allowed into? That's just historical.
Yes, you saw that a little bit in the Da Vinci Code movie with Dan Brown's book. Just how big the Vatican Library is. I mean, it really does have extensive documents going back thousands of years, and I think a lot of those documents talk at length about extraterrestrial life.
And even past that, I know they have their own astronomical society. Almost more or less, they are pretty much a government to some extent, with a budget for all this. Yeah, I mean, I know they're a country, but I mean, sure. I mean,
yeah, Nick.
I don't mean it that way. I mean, it's a lot of people though when they look at the Vatican, they think of it as a religious, and that's it. Well, just a religious organization.
Well, that's right. Yeah, the Vatican does have a political role to play, and that it is a state, and it does have observer status at the United Nations, and the Vatican does have embassies in most countries around the world, and you have papal emissaries that represent the political affairs of the Vatican traveling around the world.
Interesting. I find that the whole thing, around the Vatican and Catholicism really interesting. I don't know. Fascinating, I guess, is a better word.
I'm with you, Lo.
Thanks.
All right, Dr. Sala, we are out of time because we got to cut for another break. I want to thank you very much for coming on with us and sharing your story. And, you're a friend of the show. You've been on a few times, and we'd like to have you back.
Thanks for having me back, and I look forward to the next time.
And
yeah,
for
if
those
you hear anything good, let us know, because I'm really interested in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have both of your books on our website. I have Exopolitics, the political implications of the extraterrestrial presence, and another one called Exposing U.S. and Government Policies on Extraterrestrial. I can't read. For some reason, it got garbled.
Extraterrestrial life.
There we go. Sorry about that, but it's on up on our website. I have no web access here, so I do apologize. But both of them are up there. Go out and buy them. I've read the Exopolitics, the first one I mentioned. Excellent book. All kinds of information in there. So.
Well, thank you very much, and people can always just go to the main website, exopolitics.org, to get all of that information.
Thank you for that, because I was going to say I don't have that listed up here for some reason.
Now, can people get you from that website? Can they get in contact with you?
They can. Yep. There's an email there. There's a contact address, so they can get in touch with me through the website.
And it's a very easy website to maneuver around. I just had it up.
Nice.
So I always appreciate things like that, and I'm sure a lot of other people do too.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sala, thank you very much. Enjoy Hawaii.
Thank you, Dr. Sala.
Go surfing for me once.
Well,
all right.
Interesting stuff. Stuff.
No, we had a guest on not too long ago talking about Serpo, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, and I cannot.
He was when I was on a plane, because I remember listening to
Donald Ware, I believe.
That's it.
Yeah, okay, Donald Ware.
He was talking about sleeping with mermaids too.
Yeah.
Same guy.
Yeah, but my question: I have tried just sitting here to find the information that those, particularly not Dr. Sala, but the guy from before, was throwing around. Something about these. You can look at the actual transcripts of these conversations in the White House. I can't find them.
It's at Serpo. Just type in Project Serpo in Google. If I was there, I'd show you, because there's a website. I think it's serpo.org or serpo.net.
I've got that Well, I had that up.
And that's where a lot of the and I know I'm away from my my normal source of information, but I think it's Bill Ryan. He used to be the guy that ran serpo.net or .org. I can't. Do you have it up there?
Well, I'm just on Bing now, and it's, everything's taking me to exopolitics.
Try Google.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Microsoft,
Well,
but you've got to
that's
fix it.
Sorry,
Oh,
Microsoft,
I
but you don't
know.
have anything
I
on
don't
Google.
like Bing at all. But
Yeah, it's.
it
I
just
don't.
came up. So.
I don't know why.
Now, how much of this do you believe, Lola? Do you believe that this whole Serpo thing, that the Avatar is based on true events, and we really have people light years away? And
No. I'm
See,
sorry.
see
I-
if. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, now, I don't know. I listen to some of these guys, and I seriously go, oh my gosh, what rock have they been under? And then other ones,
these
I
people
very
love you,
find
Lola.
I know. And I'm
You're their
sorry,
hero.
but I find others very credible.
yeah,
And, to hear that, not Dr. Sal, although he is too, the Air Force colonel or whatever that we had on that was talking about Serpo, and that he had met people that had known the guys that were sent out and back. I just find it awfully hard to believe that these things were kept super secret and that nobody knew, because nothing spreads faster than something that you've told everybody not to talk about.
yeah.
Well, see, but the thing is, on the other side of it, I mean, I could see this, because this would be something that would would actually happen. I mean, that you would have kind of an exchange thing, because the best way to set up relations and to understand both sides would be, okay, you send us 12 of yours, we'll take 12 of ours.
Yeah.
And you would have to have that kind of an exchange. Because,
Like a foreign exchange student.
Yeah, I mean, because you would have to, that would be the best way, and those people would learn the language, the culture,
But
they
if
would
came
understand.
back, how could they not talk about it?
Well, according to the guy we had, it was a week ago.
Couple
you
weeks.
guys, wait, we have got to go.
Oh,
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Time for some
Oh, we gotta
CNN news.
run.
We'll be right back with this conversation. You're listening to, Whispers Radio, live at the Market House Bar and Grill in Elm Grove. We'll be right back.
Now it's time for Whispers, your number one source for all things paranormal, with your hosts, Jordan Klein and Nick Queen, and produced by the lovely Lola Miller. Whispers is brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours. At the West Virginia State Penitentiary in Moundsville, unforgettable, historical, educational.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to hour number 2 of Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network.
Hour two.
Hour 2, dose.
We've got somebody else in the studio.
Uh-oh, who is it?
What's going on, guys?
Aw. Hey, Sam, you went to the wrong spot.
Well, I was afraid you got there.
We have beer and chicken.
That's what I'm afraid of. I gotta get home for 24 after this.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm with you there.
Well,
I
you
can't
guys
wait.
watch 24 too?
Oh, 24 is awesome.
This is going to be the best season ever.
Well, we're a little bit behind because Lisa fell asleep last night. I do have to mention this. Evan. Evan's been in the studio. He was there with Donald Ware. You remember his scraggly beard?
Yes.
It's gone.
Listen how, and for those of you who are really interested in how, it's on our website.
Yeah, it's the video's online. He took a bet with me. Lola, you have to watch the video. It's hilarious.
And for those of you out there, you never bet with Nick.
Yeah, don't bet with me. But he bet that the Chargers would beat the Jets. Now this was a gamble for me because it's the Jets, but I won.
I don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Tammy. Yeah, that was
It
not a
cost me
good game.
$200.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it cost Evan his beard.
Evan now looks like a 12-year-old
Yeah, he
girl.
looks like a 12-year-old girl. I call him Howdy Doody but yeah, the video's there. It's he didn't like losing that, but now he's trying to think of a bet to get me for Super Bowl. and I'll win again probably. So, but yeah.
Well,
It's
then
good
you
times.
tell us who you're betting on, since you have such a great record.
No, because
there.
I don't want anybody coming at me, because that would be when I lose.
Yeah, you would.
And then
So-
Sammy's coming at you with the
And I-
knife in the back.
And I also won my the fantasy football this year, so I'm
You
doing
did?
good. Yeah, I did.
Isn't that crap? I was number 1 in the league all year.
You were last year too until you missed the playoffs.
How do you be number 1 and not go to the playoffs?
He
Because-
won 8 straight and then lost everything else.
Because Nick is the commissioner.
Oh,
No, actually, it's
that
because
explains it.
I'm gonna go
it's
there with
because
that.
every single person on his team got injured.
It did last season. Everybody got injured.
His entire team was on the bench. He didn't want to get rid of anybody because they were good.
My son did really well. I don't know where he ended up, but he was doing real well. And at least one of his, I think he's in like 4. But
You know, I've never done as much
You've
gambling and
never?
handicapping I've done for.
There's as much gambling and handicap.
I thought you did that last
I've
year,
never
the year
did
before.
fantasy. Nah, never
Yeah, you
did.
should do the. I think you'd have fun with it. It's a lot of fun. It makes the games more interesting on Sundays.
Well, at least now it's not so much work. When
It
that
makes
first
you have to
started,
vote for
it was
both
a lot of
teams.
work.
Oh yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
bad.
You had to do everything by hand. Now a computer adds all that stuff up for you.
that'd be
You
Which
don't
is
even
good
have
because
to
me and
mess
Counting
with
don't
it.
work too good.
Yeah.
Hey, we're sitting here with JT. He wants to run over some stuff he's got going on here at the Market House. Let me turn you on, brother.
Yeah, you should actually let him talk. It works.
You gotta
That's
turn
how.
that on.
Nick can't talk anymore. Go ahead, JT.
All right, guys. For food down here, we have some cheese fries, some onion rings and cheese sticks, and jalapeno poppers. We run the specials when you guys are here for the Whisper specials, which is switching out on Monday. You got the bucket of beer and a pound of wings for $10. And we're also doing from $6 to $9 domestic beers and $2 well drinks. What Tuesdays are you guys here again?
Not Tuesdays again until
I mean
March.
Mondays. I'm sorry.
I know we're here next week, and then Susan hasn't told us when next. Nick.
I think it's the last two Mondays of the month. He turns me back on because I'm the guy with the information. Good job. It was the last two Mondays of the month. Nobody should give Jordan power.
He is abusing it.
He abuses everything.
Yeah.
But I will say those the jalapeno poppers were awesome.
Yeah, I just
just
had
had
some of the cheese fries. Don't tell anybody I'm working out with.
Yeah.
Those cheese fries are
Nobody's
really
gonna
good.
hear ya.
Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, listen, everybody out there listening, I did not eat them, but I hear they're delicious.
Oh, okay. Secondhand knowledge on this one.
So Nick ate them. He told me they were really good.
Yeah.
Nick will eat everything.
Nicky likes it. No?
This is not the advertising campaign we're going to start.
Well, when you gentlemen are ready.
Do you have the guest on
is
the...
on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, geez, he's been listening to this.
Sorry.
I always make sure they get a little snippet of what they're walking
One
into.
day they're going to hang up.
I know. That's
I
my
would.
biggest fear. That's my biggest fear.
Well, at least this guy's been on a couple of times, so he knows what he's getting into. We have Dwayne Claude. He's a demonologist, author of Baptism by Fire, Rochester Haunts, and the DVD Demonic Haunting. He's appeared in a number of television shows and radio shows, including The Maury Show, and is the founder of Western New York Paranormal of Rochester and Buffalo. Are you with us, Dwayne?
I'm here.
You didn't hang up. Great.
We're glad you didn't hang up after Nick rambled for so long.
Wow.
Oh, let me tell you what, they got some good food here. You should drive on out. They might still be open when you get here.
They'll leave the light on for you. You have to cook yourself, though.
All right, Dwayne, tell us what you've been into lately. You're big into the exorcisms and demons, and you got a whole bunch of creepy stuff going on. What's...
Well, you know, you and I talked a few days ago, and you had asked me at the time what kind of interesting things can we cover here tonight, and I'll be honest, I was really at a quandary up until probably about 45 minutes ago when the light just kind of popped on, and it happens. It was like a miracle. You know, we talk about all these things that happen with demonic cases, and there's always a question out there,
for a lot of individuals about whether or not these cases really truly do exist, or if they're just some sort of psychological thing manifesting with people. The one interesting thing that a lot of groups and researchers don't necessarily take into consideration is how the haunting or the demonic activity stretches so much farther than the individual that it seems to be affecting. In other words, I've actually had the opportunity over the past few days to have some different individuals from around the country get in contact with me that I've known for years, and how they begin to share how the cases that they've worked with and become involved with have affected their personal lives and in many ways tore them apart. And I think that's an area that a lot of people don't realize happens. When you go out and do just a regular ghost hunt or paranormal investigation, you go in, you set your equipment up, you leave, and you might get EVPs, you might get something on video or photography,
or you might even get nothing,
or you might get nothing. With demonic cases, that doesn't happen. I spoke with an individual today that went out west to do a case, and it was just him and his team, and the house actually really that they went to, no one lived there, but it had been reputed for activity. And they went out and basically wanted to prove the existence of something darker there. And, they left. And it was shortly after that their entire team fell apart. They began to have personal issues. And 2, 3, 4 years later, everybody's now beginning to realize exactly what happened and what was going on. And unfortunately, when you're in the throes of something like that, you just don't see it.
Yeah. Now, the changes, have you experienced any of these changes? Because I know you said that people were calling you, telling their experiences. Have you had anything like this? No?
I have. And when it happens, I've never caught it initially, because it's sometimes things that kind of slide in through the back door. I had a case that I worked with that really began to affect my family, myself greatly, in that we were getting, the occasional bumps in the night, seeing some shadows and things moving around.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon in my house. Sometimes it's kind of a spiritual crossroads, and as long as it's not bothering me, I don't bother it and just let it continue to go. But it began to influence much more than that. Suddenly angers became flared. We found that when we finally began to talk to each other, the fear that we had in the house was beyond reason, and fear over the smallest things. Extreme runs of bad luck. So a lot of things that were happening with this other family or this case we were working on began to influence us here.
Wow.
And every time we took one step towards the positive with that case, we would get slammed back here. So it was very retaliatory until it began to just pull people apart. And you finally get to a point where it's my God, is it worth what we're doing? And I think that a lot of people don't see that's one of the things that goes on behind the scenes.
Now, did it pull your group apart?
It did.
Wow.
It did. It pulled the members apart that we were working with, and sent us in different directions. And basically everybody began to doubt what everybody else was doing and doubted the roles that everybody had carried. And these were people that have worked together for a long time. And it's when you get onto the other side of it, after some time has passed and things have healed, you finally begin to sit back and see how things are almost played like a puppeteer. How one thing gets put against another, and it's almost like a chess game.
Wow. Now, how often is this just the one case you worked on, or does this happen with each case you are a part of?
It doesn't happen with every case by any means, but there is the rare occasion that it does. And when those do happen like that, it tends to be the more strong, aggressive type entities that that they occur with. And you don't always see it coming. I mean, I've shared before that, before I'll go into a case, generally I'll have a visitation at the house just kind of warning me off from it. But, that'll happen too. But the aggressiveness afterwards doesn't happen. And it's actually very rare to see aggressions like that. But, over the last year or so, there's been a lot more reports of these darker, more demonic cases.
Now, why do you think that is?
I wish I had a really good answer for you. I know that we're giving a lot more attention to it. You've got all of these TV shows out there, and there's some really great ones out there. But you're also teaching some people to go out there and you poke and prod things. And if you have experience doing investigations, I may say, okay, go ahead. But there's a lot of people that have never gone out and done investigations before, and they start poking and prodding and doing all sorts of things when you have no idea what you're even working with or what's there. I had one case that I worked with that there was something in the house, and the guy was very adamant about not wanting it there. So, he would yell at it to try and get it to leave. But the more that happened, the more retaliation that there was.
Really?
Unfortunately, people learn those types of things from those media shows. So I don't think that helps. I think you've also got a lot more people turning towards the paranormal. I know there's been research done in the past about, when you get into a recession or slow economic times, that people turn to the paranormal and New Age things more often. So perhaps you got a few more people dabbling with things that they shouldn't be. And there's also the big question of 2012 coming up. How is that going to affect things? I know that. I'm sure you've had people on talking about it, but I don't necessarily think it means end times, but I think there's going to be a huge energetic shift, and people are becoming much more aware of what's around them. Why there's been more activity, I don't know, but I do know the activity that's happened has been far more intense than it ever has been in the past. And the people doing cases like this that I work with across the country have been seeing them one on top of another, where it used to be maybe a year apart if we've seen cases that intense. When I'm talking about an intense case for people who are listening, for instance, there's one case that I heard of that actually had scalding hot rain appear in a person's house.
Really?
And the gentleman who worked with it actually went in to bless the house and was getting hit with forces of water. And you had stuff going on like that. You had a case that a woman was actually having a scratches appear on her, which isn't unusual in these types of cases. But
say that again. Scratches of what?
Scratches were appearing on her.
Oh, okay.
That's not unusual, but what became unusual is when she went to a monk to get blessed. After the monk blessed her, it actually had scratched and burned her forehead in the form of a cross.
Jeez.
So you've got stuff like this happening now, which before, if we ever seen cases like that, it was far and few between.
Do you think it's because, now I've heard that like 2012 could possibly be part of the thing from solar flares. So you have different energy pulls on the Earth and gravitational pulls and things like that. So taking that into consideration, if there's a lot of new and fluctuating energy, could that be giving evil or demonic or even good spirits more energy than to manifest and to wreak havoc kind of on everybody?
I think it does, because one thing that I've noticed over the years has been these areas of extreme activity tend to be located in certain areas. Mm-hmm. And if you start to go through and look at some of the geology of the region, there tends to be areas of high magnetism, different things like that. While from some of the theories going out there about 2012, they're talking about magnetic pole shifts and things like that. They're actually stirring up the energy. So I definitely think that could be part of it. And, we all know that to some degree solar flare activity, has an effect on paranormal activity because it increases the electromagnetics.
Yeah.
So, that very well could be a possibility because they're hypothesizing, greater solar flare activity between now and then.
Yeah.
So, that definitely could be stirring everything up.
Because I know one of the theories is that, as far as a physical event, catastrophic event, solar flares will, change the magnetic fields in the Earth. So you have places like volcanoes, particularly, where you have a lot of bare ore very close to the surface of the Earth, and that's or crystals too. So, and that's what's going to attract this and make it stronger, which in turn will cause volcanoes to erupt and perhaps even more earthquakes because of the shifting plates down underneath the Earth, because of the volcanic action. So I don't, and then if you believe that hell is an actual place, you could be literally opening up portals, for evil to come out in.
Very true.
I'm a firm believer, too, that our own intentions tend to draw things, in that entities that are darker, that are evil, if you want to take it that far, are attracted to things that are like them. So many times when you get into approaching events like this, people tend to be in a more negative atmosphere. And what tends to happen is it draws those things in. Now, it doesn't affect everybody by any means, but for people who have these little doorways open in their lives that allow these things to attach, it may be a real rough time for individuals.
Now, I got a question. In a case where you do have, like, scalding hot water raining down on you and stuff like that, what do you do as a demonologist, as an exorcist? What do you do to combat that?
Well, what they ended up having to do was to find out what the catalyst was in that particular case. And in that particular case, it happened to be an individual that was in the house. So they removed the individual and the whole circumstance stopped.
You're kidding.
No.
Just by one person.
Now, would that be like
what's wrong with that person?
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't work that case, so I don't know all the details of it, but so I don't really know. But I do know that there were 3 people in the family, and it finally got to the point of, for one reason or another, the young son left the house, and as soon as he left the house, everything stopped. So I'm not really sure what was going on with that.
In general terms, when it is something that's connected to one person, what tends to be the reason behind why the demon would attach itself or begin attacking that person to some degree?
Especially a young boy.
There's lots of different reasons that an entity can attach itself to a specific person. When you start dealing with demonic entities, there has to be what I call some sort of point of contact or an initial reason for it to come into their life. And for some individuals, it can be, they're playing with black magic or doing a Ouija board. For other individuals, it may just be at the wrong place at the wrong time. They may have, for instance, a background of sexual abuse.
Yeah, I've heard that.
An incubus in the house.
Oh, gosh.
I think Lola wants one of them.
I do not. Don't. That's not funny, Jordan.
I'm sorry.
But I've seen cases before where, there's a house that exists that, has a real dark history to it, that has a history of physical abuse, sexual abuse in it. New family moves in, they have no problems. Another family moves in, and one of the people in the house has sexual abuse issues in their past, and suddenly now there's an entity that's bothering that individual. So, I mean, it could be as easy as something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean, like we were talking about, the third member of that family was a young boy, a young man. It doesn't mean that he was evil or anything like that. It just
Maybe a vulnerable spirit, like if that person has a vulnerable spirit, would that do it?
Absolutely. I mean, what I have found is that, and I of course don't have hard research to back this, but when I take a look at the cases that I've worked with that involve individuals who have had some severe spiritual attack to them, there usually does tend to be a more darker history with them. Whether it's depression issues or abuse issues, drug issues, different things pull them down into a lower energy level, things that pull them down into a place where there's self-esteem problems, where there's self-confidence problems, that allow these things to attach on. And that tends to happen more often than not with these, when individuals have a real strong problem with an entity.
Yeah.
Where the people who, are happy-go-lucky, don't have a problem that they can think of, can be in the same house and not have a problem. I mean, it's just sometimes the right person at the right time has to be there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Well, we need to go to a break, but first I'm going to apologize for Jordan. I'm going to have a stern word with him during the break about the incubus. So I'll take care of him.
I'm sorry, Lola. The incubus has to have on cowboy boots and.
someday Dwayne will explain the cowboy boots tip to you. Okay.
Okay, are we ready for a break, Lo?
Yes, we are.
All right, you are listening to Whispers Radio live from the Market House Bar and Grill in Elm Grove. We will be right back.
And now back to Whispers, brought to you by West Virginia Penitentiary Tours.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Whispers Radio on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 7:39 p.m. in the 40s, I guess, for temperature. We are live from the Market House. That works, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
It's still pleasant. It's still pleasant.
It's nothing's frozen yet. I don't want to jinx it. I'm knocking on wood. Neck's not close enough.
Dwayne, are you there?
I'm still here.
Okay, and we have a phone call for you. Want to take a phone call?
Absolutely.
There we go.
This is Manuel.
Hi, Manuel.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Hey, I had a quick question for the guest. As far as like you're talking about poltergeists and things like that, what is your big experience with like possessions? The actual full out possessions. And have you ever heard of any cases of where a person basically went along with the possession? He didn't. Where people try to exercise it out of them, and they couldn't go against the person's basically their free will. I've heard of a couple of cases where a person actually thought it was an improvement, and they didn't want anything to change of what they were doing, even though it was hurting the people around them. You could pray all you wanted, but you weren't going to be able to defeat that person's own free will. Have you heard of anything like that? And what is your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I've actually worked with a couple cases that have involved possession. I think it's important to first state that what people think is possession is not necessarily what you've seen with Linda Blair and The Exorcist. Full-form possession is extremely rare. What tends to happen more is something that is more of a partial possession where the entity slides in, slides back out. And what it really comes down to with these individuals is that they need to get into a place in their life or a time where they decide it's time to rid their life of that entity, to get rid of it once and for all. Because one of the best books ever written on the subject was actually by Scott Peck. It was called Glimpses of the Devil, The Psychiatrist's View of Exorcism. And he said it in the book really best, where the actual exorcist is the patient themselves. Because until the individual is ready to let go of the spirit that's there, it doesn't matter if you have a bishop there or even the Pope there, that entity is not going to leave. That individual has to want to get rid of it. Now, there's also been people that have questioned, the real existence of possession. And I guess one of my arguments is the person thinks that they're possessed, and they go through an exorcism, and they believe that the exorcism is going to help them, then isn't that a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
So the subconscious mind is a very powerful thing. And I'm actually also a hypnotist, and one of the things that I've learned is belief systems are formed very deeply, and sometimes you have to take a person through a process, and sometimes an exorcism is a healing process for people to get to the other side of that. And a lot of it's letting go of things, and it's asking for forgiveness for things. And until an individual is ready to do that, whether it's a spiritual thing or it's something psychological, until they're ready to let go of it, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does happen, you can definitely tell the difference between spiritual and psychological, because many different things tend to happen during those cases. I've been involved where smells will come through the room, nasty smells coming out of people, scratches will manifest on individuals and burns while the process is going on, voices coming out. I had one case that I heard of that had 3 voices coming out of an individual at once. And once those things clear, the room just lifts, and the most incredible smell of what I was once told, the smell of heaven comes into the room. So it's really a huge experience.
Well, Manuel, have you had experience with possession?
No, I've never had. I grew up in a very Catholic church, so I've always heard about possessions, and people talk about exorcisms, that they've done exorcisms, and I grew up in a Hispanic community, so a lot of this, like the brujeria and the santeria and all that stuff, they deal with a lot of that you can be possessed by somebody, or you can be possessed by a spirit, or a witch can possess you, and it was just one of those things I kept hearing about. I've heard a couple of podcasts where this one was a young individual, about 15 or 16, but he was mentally abused, physically, sexually abused. His mother used to basically whore him out for drugs, so he was being raped constantly.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden things started changing in his demeanor. He became like unhumanly strong. He'd go into these rages, and he'd pick full-grown men up and just throw them across the room. Things started happening to the mom, to the grandmother, and by this time the mom had more or less started changing her ways. The grandmother was being a positive influence, but the deeper and deeper, they tried to help him, the deeper and deeper he resisted, and it finally just dawned on them, after doing all these exorcisms and everything, that he had retreated. This demon or this entity offered such a better life than what he was, having to be, he was exposed to, what he was enduring.
Really?
That he welcomed it with open arms, and he wasn't going to let go.
Now, Dwayne, is that something that might happen? That somebody could just say, "Okay, life is better," being able to pick up grown men and throwing them?
Well, if you think about where that child was from the story you're telling me, it's definitely putting him into a position of power. And there was a life where he didn't have power, and now suddenly he's the authority figure. So, that definitely does make sense why somebody, at least of that age, would want to hold on to something like that.
Yeah. Now, do people tend to enter into almost like an agreement with a demon, for power? I mean, is that a way that someone could become possessed?
On some level, they probably do. it's always a bargain.
Well, could it even be a subconscious agreement?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not necessarily something that somebody, it's not like signing a contract.
Yeah.
But I mean, it may just be the feeling that the individual gets when all this happens is that's enough for him to bring forth an agreement between the two individuals, or between the demon and that child.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I just don't want to forget what I.
No, I mean that's what can happen. Unfortunately, what will also happen is demonic possession like that also takes a toll on the individual.
Yeah.
He's going to become sick. He's going to become unstable. I mean,
his head's going to spin around and he's going to throw up pea soup. We've seen the movie.
I've never seen that happen, but it's going to be taxing on the individual. At some point, the child may change his mind, but I can see where he would want to hold on to that.
Okay, two things. One kind of reminds me of the Portrait of Dorian Gray, where he makes a bargain with the devil, and he never ages, but a portrait of him, all of the awfulness of his life and the things that he's done, all show up in this portrait.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing. But the second is, and this is what I was oohing about, Pat Robertson and his infamous latest quote that the people of Haiti made a deal with the devil.
Thank you. We were getting ready to bring that up too.
Is now their punishment. Is that? I mean,
is that just a
from
pure ignorant statement?
Somebody that studies this, could this have, in somewhere in the past, somebody had, could that have worked?
We put you on the spot.
I might refer that question to Pat Robertson.
Okay.
He won't answer my calls.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever wanted to slap an old man as hard.
I guess my feeling would be, I don't think so. Because if you look at it in the big scheme of things, the way that things happen with the demonic, although it seems to be chaotic, there are rules that do apply. Things act in certain ways, are allowed to do certain things. One of the biggest things that come up during demonic cases and possession cases is when individuals finally reach out and say, if there's a God, why is he letting this happen? Or why is she letting this happen?
Thank you.
To be politically correct. The easiest answer that I have, he allows it to happen because every one of us has free will.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be possible for a God to allow one individual to make a decision for
an entire
species.
Yeah.
Hey, is Manuel still on the phone?
Still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
Okay. Where are you calling from, Manuel?
Chicago.
Chicago. And is you in a large Hispanic community now, or was that when you were growing up?
Not really. I'm more in the suburbs now.
Okay.
It's kind of a mixed population, but I grew up in Texas originally.
Oh, okay. So right by Mexico, and I gotcha.
Yeah, not too far actually. You guys probably know me by UFO Clearinghouse, so.
Oh yeah.
It's just my real name, so.
Yeah.
It's interesting too because there's been a lot more appearances of Santeria.
Yeah, that's what.
It's up in this, at least up in the Northeast. That belief system seems to be appearing more and more. And when you start to deal with faith systems and belief systems like that, they really welcome spirits more than the Catholic Church does. I mean, I think they have a little bit deeper of an understanding of them sometimes.
Manuel, thank you very much for your call, man.
Oh, no problem at all, man. You guys have a great night.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
By the way, Manuel, tell everybody in Pal Talk that we're sorry we missed them tonight.
So give them our love.
Yes.
And tell Beauregard that Lola loves him. Or her.
Thank you.
Did you say her? Beauregard?
I don't know.
Beauregard's going to be so mad at you.
Okay, now, he was talking about Santeria. Now, is that something, because you said that religion would bring more open to spirits. Have you had any cases involving that at all?
I have.
You have?
I've had a couple. And they're that much different when it comes down to it. It's just you start to deal with them with their own beliefs. In other words, you don't take a Catholic belief into a Santeria household because it just won't work. You have to reach into their faith systems to help them use their own to bring peace to the family or to the home or whatever the case may be.
Well, Santeria is not necessarily bad anyway, right?
No, not at all. It's a lot like voodoo.
Yeah.
I mean, most people think voodoo is something bad, and it's not. It's just a belief system. It's like any of the religious systems that mankind has made. You have the good people and you have the bad people.
Yeah.
And it's all in how you use it. So, I mean, that's what a lot of people I think they're starting to realize that. I know that Wicca and paganism had a lot of issues like that for a long time. And it hasn't really been within the last year or two that, the word is finally getting out that paganism was actually, the base of Christianity. So,
see, and with Wicca, I always think of that as really being so spiritual, almost like an American Indian belief that, everything is rooted in the earth and you know what I'm trying to say? I never thought that
like a Celtic kind of a belief. Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is too. I mean, as long as we're talking belief systems, that really kind of also helps to shape what I do as a demonologist too. Because what is a demon to one person is not a demon to another person. For instance, out in Wisconsin, they have had sightings of what some cultures will call a werewolf. The way they describe it is this creature materializes in front of them. It's a bipedal type form. Has the head, sometimes the head of a bear and a body of a wolf, but this thing appears.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, the Christians you talk to, they say it's a demon. The Native Americans tell you it's an animal spirit that's guarding one of the many burial mounds that are out there.
Yeah.
Other people are saying that, it becomes a paganism symbol because it's something they're using during ritual. So, I mean, what is scary and fearful for one individual isn't necessarily for another. And sometimes you have to weave through that and figure out exactly what you're dealing with.
And it kind of makes your job hard, too, trying to decide what to do in each situation.
It does, but I'll be honest, it's also pretty rewarding and interesting when you start to deal with stuff like that, because now suddenly you're dealing with this property that has a lot of the earmarkings of a demonic case, but then suddenly you begin to realize that, wait, what's going on here is not demonic. It maybe is Native American in nature, because what I found too in the past has been that Native American hauntings can be some, I don't want to say the nastier hauntings, but they're pretty stubborn. They're proud spirit, proud people, and if they don't want you there, they're going to let you know that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of times you have to differentiate. Is it a spirit? Is it a demon? Is it a totem? I've had cases where totem animals are guarding something, and it's not really a demon. And one of the
is that like a bunch of animals stacked on top of each other?
Jordan.
I'm sorry.
Good thing they're there and I'm here. I'd be thunking them, one for dumbness.
I've never done a thing here. I just have to live with this.
You learned your lesson.
Now,
I learned my lesson quick.
Now, Dwayne, we are out of time. I want to thank you very much for being a part of the show today. We love having you. We love hearing your stories, and we want you to keep coming back.
Oh, absolutely. I do have one quick question, though. When are we going to Moundsville?
Whenever you want
when
to.
You come up here.
We're hoping to plan something for May. If you want to try to make it, we'll find more details soon. But
we get the info booked out, and we're going to call you. You got to
be
get
the
here,
first
though.
Call.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I'll come down.
That'd be a great time.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be great.
That would.
That'll be great.
Again, thanks, man, very much. We love it, and we'll have you back.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Good night, Dwayne.
See you, Dwayne. I
Oh,
love
that
the
guy.
stories.
I know. And he's right. It's all in perception. I can imagine that, if you ran across a Native American spirit, they were so steadfast in their beliefs and reverence for their dead that they're going to be wicked if you want to use any other word, and in their protection of sacred ground. And I would imagine probably in Asia you'd have an awful lot of that because of their reverence to the dead.
Yeah, and they're like in China, I think they have like a forest underneath a volcano, I think, that they call the suicide forest, where all these people go and if they've shamed their family or shamed themselves, they go and kill themselves. And it's supposed to be one of the most haunted areas because of their belief. They put so much faith into that area.
I thought that was under Mount Fuji.
It could be.
Because there's a Destination Truth. Did you ever watch that?
I don't know.
There's a Destination Truth. Have you ever heard of that show, Lola? It's on a Sci-Fi Channel.
No.
And it's sort of like a guy goes out with ghost hunters, but it's looking for monsters, all kind of different things. But he actually go and they spend some time there. And, it was a creepy, creepy place. Like they'll find some pictures that people tore up where they committed suicide that they had kind of like left underneath a tree and all kinds of crazy stuff. It was pretty goosebump. Well, I was in goosebump inducing.
Yeah.
Intense.
I would never stay in that forest overnight.
If you look online, there's even signs. Anti-suicide hotline signs,
you don't have to do this.
It's really not all that bad, signs. Turn back now.
They have such a belief in
honor,
in saving face and that kind of thing. And we think it's crazy, but in their culture, that's
acceptable.
And expected of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Still pretty creepy place.
It would be. Well, gentlemen.
Well, my dear Lola.
Oh, my. Okay, Riley.
Friend Martin. I can do that.
He was saying Fred, right?
No, friend.
Oh, friend.
Friend
okay,
Martin.
My dad's name was Fred Martin. At first I thought.
See, that's the connection. Dad. That's why he was so in love with you.
He's been stalking you, Lola.
Talking about a symbol. His symbol's probably like your door frame or something,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For those wondering, next week we have Robert Collins talking about his book Exempt from Disclosure. So it's going to be a lot of fun talking about Area 51, that kind of stuff. I'm sure Jordan will enjoy that.
Nick, who we got next week?
That's I just told you.
Yeah, thanks for jumping the gun.
I did jump the gun because you're like, you're never prepared. I was prepared.
He was so excited about it. You should see his little face, Lola. He's so happy. He's bouncing up and down and clapping. Like a little teddy bear. Next week, again, we will be at the Market House Bar and Grill down here in Elm Grove. Come on out. They got food. They got beer. They have Pepsi. They have Coke. Not that kind. Lola.
I'm going to see if I can blackmail Biff or Doug into working, and perhaps I'll be out there.
And we might have a Lola.
Yeah.
Half price.
People were asking for it. Where's Lola?
Yeah, there was a lot of people came
in. They just walked out. It was like, well, there's no Lola.
I'm not putting up with this.
It's just you guys? Oh,
jeez. All right, come out and see us next week. It'll be loads of fun like it always is. Until then, don't be afraid. Only believe.
Dawn's light.